in office, and it was Reagan's message that fueled her interest in politics, community, and the world around her. Leslie's professional career has included banking, human resources, economic development, and real estate. In 1995, Leslie and her military family moved to Clay County. She immediately fell in love with the Southern hospitality and its Republican constituency, which was a far cry from California. She wasted no time getting involved with the local Republican Executive Committee as a precinct committee woman and has held many other offices over the years. Leslie enjoys having her finger on the pulse of the county, the state, and the national political scene, but her true passion is spending time with her daughter and exercising her Second Amendment right. So let us welcome Leslie.
Good morning. Yes, love my Second Amendment rights. What I'm here to talk about is, camera.
Yes.
There we go.
Please.
Can you take off a couple pounds? What I'm here to talk about is I was your chairman of the Republican Party for the state of Florida. And we're coming into an election year, and politics is always like, okay. I'm not here to talk about politics so much as I'm here to talk about party and how it's structured. You hear things, you see things, you're hearing about all the parties and what happens, but what you probably don't understand is how is it structured in the state of Florida. And then I'll talk a little bit about government affairs and how what that means to you as a chamber member and what we're doing with it. The state of the county is one of the things that the government affairs puts on. And I'll talk a little bit more about what we do with the candidates and elected officials. So party structure, probably in this room, I will say we'll probably have a 70-30 swing. 70% is one party, 30% we probably have a couple people that are maybe independent. In the state of Florida, we have two major parties, Republican, Democrat, and we have 9 other parties. And a couple of years ago, when it was, I want to say about 2010, we had about 20 different parties. So parties can be formed, we could form the Roy Buncombe Party if we want to, and we can all become a member. You just form it through the state of Florida. So there's a mechanism to do that in the state. The other mechanism is your Florida statute. In the Florida statute, it says that there will be parties created. And in those two parties, two major parties, Democrat and Republican, you have a state chairman. So you have a state chairman that's formed. How that, I want to call it, what do we call that thing, the diagram that in the business world? Organization chart. This is what I'm going to go through. So you have your chairman. Now what happens is you have 67 counties, we all know that. In each one of those counties we have precincts. We go and we vote in our precinct, right? Each one of those precincts has a number and it has a population. What we have in the party is a population deems one representative in a house, in a Republican or Democrat. So with the Republican Party, because I'm also your chairman of your Clay County Republican Party here, I have people that have stepped forward and said, I'm in precinct 410. I would like to be the Republican precinct committee woman. So then you serve as, it's pretty much an elected official position because you do get elected from the Clay County Republican Party. So you have all of these precincts. I can't remember, Chris Chambliss, Supervisor of Elections, I'm sure would tell me how many precincts there are. But each one of those precincts, based on population, is allowed one man and one woman for those parties. Democrat, Republican, doesn't matter. Then, from there, we have one state committee man and one state committee woman that is elected by everybody, by the Republican Party in Clay County, meaning on the ballot, not just the committee itself. And then we have one woman. And then, out of that committee that meets, they elect one chairman. So now you have a chairman, you have a state committee man, a state committee woman, and you have all these precinct people. That creates your Republican Party here in Clay County. And, if you want to know when that meets, we can talk all about that later. But that's how that's structured. You have 67 of those throughout the state of Florida. Some are not as active as others. You have some that are larger based on population, some that are smaller. But those are the people that get involved with elections. You have both the Democrat and the Republicans doing this. So what happens is we come into this election cycle. That's the party that gets the vote out for their party. So they create the headquarters, They have the candidates all come in, usually during a primary standpoint. Everybody's very neutral. We all support everybody. But we get out there, we get the vote out. That's all we do. Some people will say, well, you know, the Republicans believe in it. That may be our baseline of what our belief, but that's not where the party goes. And I think sometimes people, they don't understand. That's why I come out and talk about this. Under any party, everybody has different beliefs. You'll have 6 different beliefs on issues right here. So, but you all may have certain concepts of going, you know, I like less government or less taxes, which would be a couple of the Democrats' or Republican views. So you would tend to all stay together, Republican Party. So based on that, that is how we do. We don't sit there and talk about debate issues too much. It is about how do you get the vote out? How do we tell all of the people out there to vote? And then how do we cultivate people to run for office? How does Wayne, who was a retired engineer, decide he's going to run for office? And where do you go when you do something like that? Well, naturally, depending on what party you do, you go to the party and then they say, well, this is how you run for office, and these are the people that actually come out and go to the meetings. They may go to the Clay County Democrat Party, they may go to the Clay County Republican Party. So how do you get involved in your community before you go run for office? Harold was a sheriff, retired sheriff and school teacher, ran for county commission. So these people, as well as anybody of you sitting here that would like to run for office, the first step you would probably do would be to talk with elected officials and then go to the party and see where is the path that you go on that. Now, what happens when you are the Clay County Republican Party? We have 67 chairmen, we have 67 counties, 67 chairmen, 67 state committeemen, and 67 state committee women, and then we have the precinct people. The big 3, we call them, the chairman, the state committee man, and the state committee woman, then go to a state quarterly meeting. That creates the Republican Party of Florida. Each one of those 3 members goes to an annual meeting and they elect the chairman. And then that chairman serves at the capacity of all of the state committee. And at the time, you know, the governor, the lieutenant governor, your congressional people, you have House and Senate members, and you have 10 members that are appointed by the governor, all create this big mechanism called the Republican Party of Florida. And they get out the vote. They disseminate, okay, how are we going to get out the vote? What are we going to do? And then above that, RPOF, the chairman, when I was chairman, then I went to the RNC quarterly. So the RNC sits over all the states. And the RNC then provides the data that goes down into each one of the states, that then goes down into each one of the counties and into the precincts. So that's how that works. And everybody, when they go, oh, we're going to talk about politics, not necessarily issues. I want you to understand, how does that structure work? And then when you hear things like, the one phrase that always just I love so much, the establishment. You know, the English language, we have such a great idea. You know, when we say these words, what does that mean? Well, you know what? It means something different to you than it means to me. Saying those things are always a media-driven. I can't figure it out when they say that. Well, she's establishment. Well, he's whatever. And I don't get that. That means nothing to me. What I think when you go into an election cycle, one of the key things to do is look at qualifications. Where have they been? What have they done? And what are they there to do? What are they saying they're going to do? So let me transition into the government affairs position. From the government affairs, we are, as the Chamber of Commerce, getting into about, I think we're going to have 900 members soon. We're going to make a big deal out of this, because this is a big deal. We're 900 members strong. We, as the business community, really have a great capacity to look at all of our members and see what members really help drive our businesses. Roy and I were having this discussion. instead of looking at where can we find taxes, what member is going to really say, how can we bring more businesses in here to make more business, to make Clay County grow, rather than just going for what's the best tax solution for us to get money. And he has a great point. So how do we increase all of our businesses, and what candidate will affect us by doing that? So what in government affairs we brought to the executive board, and they approved it, and we're going to do it for the first time this year, is a questionnaire, and it's going to involve every candidate that's running. Don't care what party, that's not important. What's important is the business community has input into those questions, so that you're able to ask a question of all those candidates, and they're going to be questions related to the business community, not anything else. You want to ask something personal? Go to that candidate and ask them something personal. But it's going to be business related. How does it affect you? And then we're going to publish it. And each questionnaire will have the original questionnaire. We will have it in the Chamber of Commerce if anybody wants to see it, the pen and ink original that they form and that they all fill out. We're going to publish it, and then we're going to give it to the businesses for you to take to your business and hand out to your customers and your employees. One of the things that the Chamber of Commerce in Florida found out was your employees want to know who the best candidate is that's going to help their business. They trust you guys as business leaders as to politics. I mean, they just do. They're loyal to their business. They're loyal to where they work. They want to know about politics. They want to know where you sit. Not necessarily party or anything like that. Just who are the good candidates. So by doing questionnaires and by giving information to the employer, it goes to the employee. I think Orange Park Medical, you have a government affairs type thing where you educate your employees on the issues and candidates. And that's what we want to do from a business perspective. And then, you know, we're going to be 900 people strong here, and it's important that we get the message out to everybody about what's going on. Let me go back to party really quick just to point out one of the things that's happened. We all know the congressional district lines got drawn from the federal congressional seat. So Corrine Brown is no longer covering into Clay County anymore. Congressman Yoho is covering all of Clay County. One of the things that the party, Clay County Republican Party, is going to do, because I went to something and I ran into someone that was actually in Green Cove, and they're like, no, we still have Corrine Brown. I said, no, the lines were drawn. So nobody kind of knew about this. Well, the party is going to have a reception down in Green Cove for the congressman. We're going to make sure we invite as many people in that area so that they can come meet their new congressman. And that's something the party should do, because they don't know that's changed. And we're an advocate for educating, for getting the information out, and allowing the people to make the decision. You make the decision, we just create, you know, the picture that you can do. There was one other thing I wanted to, questionnaire, blah, blah, blah. Couple other things that are coming up. The State of the Union is coming up. That's another thing that Government Affairs does. So you can figure out what is going on in each one of our little counties and municipalities. I always think that's a really good thing to go to, because you kind of get a feel for what some of the challenges are. And then the other one is the Water Summit that's coming up. I wanted to have a Water Summit because this Outer Beltway coming through is going to divert a lot of water. Water is a resource that we kind of take for granted. I mean, I'm a realtor by trade, and you know, we just throw a house in and water, and you just kind of every morning flush the toilet, take a shower, you just kind of expect it to be there. Well, as we continue to build homes, it's going to become less and less. So how do we look at ways to preserve our resource in the best way possible? So we're going to have, I think, some engineers. We're going to have St. Johns River Water Management and some other people come and talk about what are they doing? What does the future look like? And how do we get there the most cost-effective way as possible? Because the last thing you want to do, and I've talked with some people that come in and they want to bring a business in, and all of a sudden they realize you've got to create a 5-acre pond over here, and they're like, oh, and that's part of it. So how do we look at water a little bit differently and start to plan for the future? Because we all know nobody's leaving Florida, they're all coming here. And that's going to be something that we look at in the future. So as you see things like that, we know a presidential year is coming. We have all this stuff's going to be happening in terms of presidential year. The one thing that I always advocate that you do is get out and vote and take 10 of your friends. Don't care who you vote for, it's not my position to tell you, but it's important that you get out and vote and look at the candidates and see what they do. And when you hear the word establishment again, please ask yourself, what does that mean? I just never know. But anyway, does anybody have any questions? Oh, come on. Gotta have some fun questions. Harold?
Where do you stand on the Third Amendment?
The Third Amendment. What's the Third Amendment? It's funny because, as a candidate, you will get some really funny, interesting questions, I'll call them, that have nothing to maybe do with what you do. As a county commission, you set policy for the county structure building, and then sometimes you get a question like out of left field, like, do you eat steak or are you a vegetarian? Or, what does that have to do with the tea of China being a county commission? So, it's kind of funny. But if there are no other questions, I will turn it back over to...
Oh, we have a question.
What direction would you go in on health insurance related matters that need to be taken?
Glad you brought that up. Really glad. Well, it's been a dynamic going on in the Senate and the state, okay, and things have happened, and because I was the party chairman, I have a fairly good relationship with the governor. He has gone to DC, and I believe he has it fixed. He won't necessarily tell me that he's got it fixed, but he has an idea of doing it. And right now you have a battle of wills. You've got a House going against a Senate and then a governor, and nobody's really playing well. Everybody thinks that they have a way of fixing it. But this is Leslie Dewar's dollar value meal take, okay? And literally it's a dollar value meal take. Why is it you and I can go to McDonald's and we know how much it costs to buy a hamburger or a #1 value meal? But you go to the doctor, how much does it cost to go to the doctor? How much does it cost to have a procedure done? You don't know. You don't know until you get home and that statement comes in from your insurance company. And I'm like, and I was sitting with the governor one day. He's got some issues that he needed some help on. So anyway, we're having lunch, and I said, I think I know where you're going with this, because he kind of just smiles. And I said, and I went to this whole issue of, why is it we don't know how much it costs to go to something? And he kind of smiled. And I have a feeling it's going to be something where we have the ability as a consumer. It's almost like a consumer law. You know what it's like. There's nothing. You can't go to Walmart and pick up something that they, by law, have to tell you how much that is. So why is it that I go to a doctor and I don't know till after the fact? Wouldn't it be great if I had to go have a procedure done? Okay, you've got to have this procedure done. Here's the only place that they tell you, and I'll be honest with you, you can laugh at this, is the plastic surgeon. Because you're paying. And an eye lift is about $1,800, whatever. But that's the only time. But think about it. That it's because you're paying that out of your pocket. Why is that? Why is it if I have to have a procedure done, whatever that may be, that the doctor doesn't say, this is how much it's going to cost you, and here we go. And okay, and then maybe you have the ability to go get another opinion on it. Otherwise, it's your money, you're spending it, and I hate to say this, and don't tell them Park Medical, but you have to ask yourself, go around and look at the hospitals, how many of them have cranes and are really building on to them? Hospitals are making some money. They really are. So, if I was to end up in the hospital today, I have no idea how much it would cost me overnight. How would I find that out? How would I find out how much an anesthesiologist is if I had to go have my knee done again, which I had ACL reconstruction? I didn't know how much it was till after the fact. Nothing. I just got a call. Go get your tests. Okay. Has anybody ever found out other than that? No. That's
working on it right now.
Yeah. So for me, if I wanted to go to healthcare, that would probably be a big, huge advocate for me in Tallahassee would be, tell these consumers how much they're spending. Because there's an insurance plan out now, I believe, and I don't remember what they call it, but where you have a certain amount of money that you have in your own account, your medical account. So you, what is it called? Yeah, it's a savings type plan, it's a type of coverage, and your money's in there, so you're responsible for that money. Well, why don't I want to know how much I'm spending until after the fact, you know? And the advantage, I think, would be, well, if you got to keep some of that afterwards, you know? I mean, I'd be all Johnny on the spot. I'd be value meal all over the place for medical if it was a good doctor. So that's my take on what I found out about it. And I am sure, and I will tell everybody, some of this stuff is so complicated until you actually get to Tallahassee. But some of it is also quite a bit of common sense and pushing it through, because it's time that some of the stuff gets fixed. You know, I mean, it's a battle of, I hate to say this, guys, but it's a battle of egos up there of what they're going to do. And it's like, meantime, you and I sit here without some of those things solved. So that's why my last name is Dewar. Any other questions? No?
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.